Hello, Trail Seeker, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James, and I am beyond excited for you to listen to this episode with David Schmidt, the creator of the phototherapy patches that I've been using for over a year with many of my clients having phenomenal results. Not going to take up too much of your time right now before we jump into this thrilling episode. But I wanted to give you a few pieces of information that are key. One, go to learntruehealth.com and in the menu there, click on Work with Ashley James. And the very first thing that comes up, the very first appointment type, is a free chat with me. It just says phototherapy discovery session. Go ahead and sign up for that if you are interested in any way in learning more, having a talk with me about the phototherapy patches, in trying them for yourself. There's a money back guarantee, so there's no risk and there's no negative side effects. It's not a drug. We're getting really amazing results. So if you have something nagging in your life, something in your health that you're not happy with, and it can be emotional issues, it can be physical issues. I've helped people using the phototherapy patches I've seen with my clients. They overcome things like insomnia, depression, anxiety, exhaustion. I myself have tremendous energy, and I've noticed that sleep is better, energy is better throughout the day, digestion improves. There's so many things that improve so many levels of health. So pick something you're not happy with. Let's have a discovery session where we chat about it, and I'll be very straight up. If I don't think that phototherapy is right for you, we can just talk about what it is, what your health goals are, what you're frustrated in terms of your health, emotional or physical or otherwise, and what you want to overcome, what you want to improve in terms of your happiness and your health in your life. And if it's on phototherapy, I will point you in the direction of other resources. I love, love, love talking to you guys. So jump in, have a session with me, and let's see how I can help you. I have a feeling, though, most of the time, most of the people that I talk to, phototherapy has worked when I suggest it. I have over 160 clients now using phototherapy successfully, using this, the whole interview today is about phototherapy. And when you hear phototherapy, when I heard it, I thought, is it a bunch of like lights? Because you think photo, light. No, it's not. You're not getting in a giant machine. It's actually a really easy wearable technology. It's so simple that it's kind of wild how powerful it is. It's very simple, it's very powerful, and it's affordable, which is exciting. One example being that there is one of the phototherapy patches, and this is all proven. They've done studies and proved it, that it increases glutathione production. It asks the body to increase glutathione production by 300% in the first 24 hours. And for some people, it goes even beyond that after 24 hours. In comparison, if you were to take an oral glutathione, you raise your levels by about 10%. It's hard to absorb exogenous glutathione orally. So, when you're spending $50 to $100 on, and good oral glutathione is in the range of $50 to $100 per month, you're only raising it by about 10%. If you were to go to get an IV, that's between $100 and $200, and that doesn't last very long. That's only lasting a few hours. Glutathione doesn't last for days. It's a very short half-life in the body, and that is very expensive if you think about it. Or the oral glutathione, the injections, the phototherapy patch, you're between $1 and $2 a day basically for increasing it by 300%. So it's actually the cheapest way to support the body in terms of raising glutathione levels. And that's just one of several patches that they have that ask the body to perform specific functions more. So we're helping the body come back into balance. And we've got great results around pain, around stimulating healthy bone healing. I've had several clients with broken bones that healed incredibly faster and got them out of pain much faster. That's really exciting. I do have a quick story. in our Facebook group, there's a hidden, you can't see it, you can't find it on Facebook. I have to send you a unique private link. So if you want to, when we have our call together, I will give you that link. And the link expires, so I can't even share this link publicly because it's a unique link that invites one person into this group that's a private hidden Facebook group of practitioners and their clients and all of the people in this group that are using the phototherapy patches in a specific way. We use them with understanding that the body has meridians like traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, and so we place them on specific points of the body, and we get even better results because there's that synergy of working with the energy system of the body and the nervous system of the body. We're working with it in that way. In that group, if you type in the search function, if you type in thyroid, you could spend over half an hour scrolling and reading testimonial after testimonial of people in that group, mostly women, are sharing about their thyroid who had hypothyroid, but after using the phototherapy patches to support their body's ability to heal itself, no longer have hypothyroid. So much so, in less than 2 months of doing the protocol, and this are several testimonials, all said the same thing, went back to their doctor, and their doctor did testing, and their doctor took them off of their thyroid meds. They no longer have hypothyroid. And it's just 2 types of patches. Again, I'm not making medical claims. I'm not saying we cure or treat anything. We're supporting the body's ability to heal itself. And then people say, hey, wow, my health is getting better. We're noticing my health improving in this way. And my doctor did blood tests. And my doctor said, I don't need this medicine anymore. And that's my goal. My goal is to get people so healthy, their doctors take them off meds. And because they're so healthy, they're not leaning on those crutches anymore. They don't need to. They're so healthy. Well, this happened with one of my clients. I told her she didn't want to have hypothyroid anymore. She didn't want to be on meds anymore. And I said, okay, well, here's what other people have said they've done to support their thyroid in optimal function. And she texted me just very casually. I was like jumping up and down, screaming. I was so excited. She texted me like within less than 2 months into doing this protocol, she goes, I went back to my naturopath, like you said, and I got my blood work, and she took me off of all my thyroid meds because my thyroid now is performing completely normal. How exciting is that? It's wild, because phototherapy, as you will discover in this interview, it's not molecular medicine. It's just asking the body to come back into balance. I have many, many other examples of how this has helped specifically to help people get back into balance. And that is why I'm doing this interview, because my goal when I started this podcast, I started it 8 years ago with the intention that I would reach those who are sick of suffering, who cry themselves to sleep because the doctor that they see have given up on them, or have one drug after another, or have side effect after side effect, and they're sick of being sick, and they're tired of being tired, and they want to help their body heal and come back into optimal health, but they don't know how. And that's why I started this podcast, to find the answers for you. I don't believe there's like a magic bullet out there. I don't believe there's a magic pill. I think that health is multifaceted. I believe we can't out-exercise a bad diet. You can't, there's no shortcuts. And there are tools that we don't even know about, that you don't even know about, that you're about to learn about today. There are tools out there that will supercharge our healing as we work on supporting our body's ability to heal itself. So that's why I'm really excited for you to hear this today. It's kind of crazy. You got to open up your mind. So I was resistant at first, and I talk about this in the interview I did just over a year ago about the phototherapy patches. I was skeptical, and then I went, wait a second, I got to be a bit more open-minded. And so I tried it, and I had an immediate result. And I thought, this is too cool. This is too cool. So I'm very excited to introduce you today to the creator, the inventor of LifeWave, And I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and please share it with your friends and family. I'd love to hear from you. Also, after this interview, come join us in the Facebook group, the Learn True Health Facebook group. I'd love to hear what you thought about it, your questions, what you learned from it. I'm all for starting a discussion about this. And if you are super skeptical, I invite you to have conversations about it. I appreciate skepticism because I think we need to, especially in this day and age where we're being told what's safe and effective is now no longer safe and effective, that we shouldn't just blindly trust anyone. So definitely come in with your skepticism, but also remember to bring your open mind. And I love that this company does have a money back guarantee. They stand behind their product because it is kind of out there when you think about it. But when you look into the results they get and the science behind it, it's phenomenal. So enjoy today's interview, and remember, go to learntruehealth.com and click in the menu, Work with Ashley James. Sign up for a free phototherapy discovery session with me because I'd love to help you try these and just see what happens. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 517. I am beyond excited to have David Schmidt on our interview today. I'm a fangirl, so I'm kind of blushing a bit here just having you on the show. My husband and I are big fans of you and of the technology that you've created. I've pretty much for the last almost year and a half talked about you to someone every single day. Our 8-year-old son, actually, he gravitated towards this technology before I was super interested. I was kind of like, at first, when we first heard about it, I was like, this sounds a little like, it's so new. It's such a new concept. I know it's not new technology. It's been around for over 20 years, but it was new to me and new to a lot of people that I introduced it to. And my son, who's like a science geek, he immediately understood it. He understood the technology before I did. We watched some webinars, watched some of your science webinars, and he was like, I want this now. I want to put it on me. And every week, at least once a week, he'll say, can you put this patch on me? Can I get this patch? And last night he was asking me for a patch, and it's so cute that an 8-year-old gets it. He totally gets it. And he's had several amazing experiences with your phototherapy technology where he had a really bad sore stomach. He was really nauseous. We put some patches on his tummy and it immediately relieved the nausea. And he wouldn't let me take him off him. He's like, no, this is making me feel better. Don't take him off. He's not generally like a sick child, but he has allergies and it leads to asthma. And we're really good about diet. Like, we're really clean and eating, and we're really health focused. Obviously, I'm like a big health nut doing this podcast. After he started using the patches a few times a week, after a few months, I noticed that he wasn't using his inhaler. He didn't need it. He wasn't having asthma, and his allergies were going away. And we've seen a significant reduction in his allergies. And that coincides right when the time he started using the phototherapy technology. So just really interesting on that end. We've used it in acute situations in our family, like first aid situations where it immediately stops the pain, immediately stops the swelling. My husband, by the way, says thank you. My husband, Duffy, says thank you so much. I was on the phone with him earlier. He goes, tell David I say thank you.
Wonderful.
His favorite phototherapy patch is Alavita. He wears it nightly on his forehead. It gives him such great sleep, such deep sleep, and gives him dreams. And I've talked about this on the show before, he was, for 50 years, had no dreams. He couldn't remember his dreams. They weren't colorful. He didn't have anything. And then there was one time we took a medicinal mushroom, not psychedelic, like a medicinal over-the-counter mushroom tincture, and he had colorful dreams. He's like, oh my gosh, that's never happened to me before. But since he's been using the patch on his forehead at night, it gives him such deep sleep. And he wakes up remembering these amazingly vivid dreams, and he just loves it. And I love that what the patches gave to me is I got the energy that I had as a child back. I feel like I feel like I'm 7 again in terms of my level of endurance and energy throughout the day. So I never thought I'd get that back, and I'm so grateful. So thank you, David, for everything that you've created in the last 20 plus years and what you continue to do. And I'm a huge fan, and I can't wait for the listeners to dive in and learn more about your technology. So welcome to the show.
Oh, Ashley, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for that background information. I will warn you that it sounds like you have an inventor on your hands. So, because there's some similarities there, I think, from my past, from when I was 8 years old. So I would encourage you to encourage him to explore that side of inventing or engineering. So that could be very, very interesting for you and your husband.
You have no idea how happy my son, I bet as he's listening right now, he's got a smile from ear to ear in the future when he's listening, because he identifies as an inventor and he wants to be a physicist. He wants to be he's into quantum mechanics. He wants to be a pilot. He just wants to do so many things, but he loves science, and the way his brain works, it just surprises me. So thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it.
Well, you never know where life is going to take you. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, I knew I wanted to be an inventor, and but I didn't know how that was really going to manifest. And fortunately, I've been very blessed with divine guidance, leading a life of prayer. And from my perspective, God has played the top role in my life, guiding me and directing me to lead me to where I am today. So, and on these journeys of faith, you end up in places that you don't expect to be, but it's incredibly rewarding. And so, part of what goes with the path of being an inventor is allowing yourself to be subject to the will of God, to put the will of God first, and then act in a way that's going to benefit the greater good. So if you have those ideals in mind, you'll end up in places in life that you would least expect, and you find that the journey is exciting and unbelievably rewarding. And that's really been my experience.
I love that you started the conversation this way. When you dive into what David's created, you see that you are, David, this amazing inventor and scientist. And to have someone who has such a strong science background and has invented this amazing technology, say that first and foremost, you make sure that you're in alignment with what you feel God's vision is for your inspiration and for the way you touch people's lives. And if you follow that level of ethics, we make sure that we do no harm. We make sure that we are leaving a positive impact globally. If everyone aligned their hearts and their actions with God's will, what an amazing world this would be. So thank you for starting the conversation off like that. I have a bunch of really cool questions from my clients and from my fellow teammates that are also practitioners that I've introduced to you and to this technology. And I'm going to save that for the second hour. The first hour, I really want to get into understanding what is this thing we're talking about? Because I'm sure a lot of listeners who don't know are like, what's this? Tell me, finally, what is this thing? What I want to do is reference episode 496. That's when I had Trina Hammock on the show, actually a year ago. I had been using the patches from about November to February personally and having amazing results. And then I had Trina on last February and shared some of my results. And since last February, so it's been a year, outstanding results. I have over 160 clients having like life-changing, remarkable experiences, pain gone, bones healed themselves twice as fast, people's tremors going away, migraines going away, symptoms of a brain tumor going away, hot flashes immediately, instantaneously going away, insomnia going away, anxiety, depression. Just on an emotional level, we see a shift. On physical levels, we see a shift. It's been remarkable, the stories. I had one woman who she had tons of mystery symptoms, and all of them went away. And she was just like reeling, like she couldn't believe it. She'd been to so many different doctors and they all didn't know what was wrong with her. And after she started working with me using this technology, everything went back to what it was supposed to. So we've just had so many remarkable experiences. So listeners can go back and listen to 496. And then if listeners want to jump in and purchase them, I want you guys to reach out to me because I work as a practitioner with these and I want to make sure that I help you purchase them and use them correctly. So you can go to learntruehealth.com and click work with Ashley James and book that free session with me so we can talk together. And then if you want to just jump in and check them out, go to lifewave.com/learntruehealth. That's lifewave.com/learntruehealth. So David, take us back just over 20 years ago where it all began, where creating this phototherapy wearable technology all began.
Actually, if it's okay with you, let's go back maybe 40 years.
Okay, sounds great.
So I just turned 60. So this would be when I'm in my 20s. And I'm going back, I've been to college and gone for a degree in computer science and management information systems. I took a year to go out and work, and I worked for a company designing medical devices. And then I went back to school to get a degree in biology. And at that time, I became friendly with the chairman of the biology department, wonderful man by the name of Bill Ventura. And he was a pharmacologist. So he and I would butt heads a little bit on things, but it was okay because he was very kind to me. And he said that I had approached him and said, I have some ideas on a novel method of treating cancer. And I need a laboratory. So, is there a way that I could do this with the university? So he said, well, as it turns out, I'm not going to be using my lab for the coming year. So if you want to use it, that's fine. But it's going to be up to you to, raise the money and the resources that you're going to need for this research. So I went ahead and I got a grant from a company in New Jersey. This was in New York. I went to Pace University in Westchester. And then I got a relationship with the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and they were donating animals with this was mice that had two different types of neuroblastomas. They were a immunogenic and non-immunogenic neuroblastoma. One was called the TBJ and the other a C1300. And the difference between the two was that the C1300 would promote a response from the immune system where the TBJ would not. And the method that I was working at that time was to see if we could electromagnetically manipulate selectively the membrane potential of the cancer cells without harming the healthy cells. And number one, it was electromagnetic energy and devices that I was working with, and I was building these up from scratch. But it's important because the LifeWave technology works, of course, with light, and that's a form of electromagnetism. But this was a very low frequency electromagnetic wave. In any case, after 2 years of research, what I found was that it was possible to depolarize selectively the membranes of cancer cells and do that selectively in the sense that you could kill the cancer cells without harming healthy tissue, and there were no types of toxic side effects. So this is important because many years later, in the 90s, this was now, during, it was about 1986, 1987. So later on in the 90s, when I was doing work for government contractors and this opportunity came up to improve the survivability of the crew of submarines, I wanted to go back to this idea that we could do this with energy. that we could improve people's energy with, instead of having to use stimulants like caffeine or amphetamines, that we could do this in some way naturally and communicate with the cells and do it that way. So that background is probably important, because if it wasn't for that experience, it wouldn't have led me down the road that I eventually ended up in.
I've listened to so many of your lectures, but what you just shared made so much sense and got me so excited. We're kind of on the edge of our seat because we just heard you depolarize the cell walls, of cancer cells, and what kind of potential that has, right, for the future of natural medicine to naturally stimulate our body's own ability to heal itself. So at that point, you were working on developing a natural technology to help increase energy. I know what happened because I've listened to so much of you, but the listener doesn't. So please continue with your story.
Sure. So I was developing power generation technology for the U.S. Navy through government contractors, principally General Dynamics Electric Boat and Newport News Shipbuilding, although there were some other big companies that I was going and visiting and speaking to about some of this tech that I had invented. And I had been at a meeting, and I was being told that the power generation equipment that I was proposing, they couldn't use on a sub in an emergency situation because it would pull all of the oxygen out of the sub. So I said, well, what are you doing for oxygen during an emergency? And they started to tell me about chlorate candles. Now, chlorate candles have been around for about 150 years, and it literally is a candle that you burn that causes a chemical reaction that releases oxygen into the air. It's about 60% efficient, and it's very dangerous, and it's also very, very messy. So on a nuclear sub, they have to put these chlorate candles into an oven, as they call it. They burn them at high temperature, and then it releases oxygen. So I happened to make the comment that I couldn't believe on $1 billion sub they were burning candles for oxygen. And so the one of the fellows, the head of emergency systems, said to me, "Well, if you can think of a better way to do it, then go ahead." So I took that as challenge accepted. And 3 weeks later, I called him and I said, okay, I've invented a better way to do it. I'd like to come up and make a presentation. And they thought, oh, there was just no way this guy invented something in 3 weeks. So we're going to embarrass him. So they told me that I had to give him a presentation in front of about 2 or 3 people, and it turned out to be 30 people. And we went down to their microanalytical lab. They had a mass spectrometer, and they put my device into the mass spec. And the chlorate candles, as I mentioned, are 60% efficient, and my device was over 99% efficient. And so that got their attention. So one of the fellows that was at the meeting was running black projects. And he contacted me 2 weeks later. And he said, I was really impressed what you came up with and how you handled yourself. And I'd like to invite you to be part of a program we have. It's a mini sub, and the mini sub is going to attach to a nuclear sub, and it's going to be manned by Navy SEALs. And they're going to go on these very long missions that would be 30 hours, 60 hours at a time. And I want you to take a look at the project and see if you can make a contribution to it. So I took a look, and the first thing that came to mind was I didn't know how these guys were going to stay awake for 60 hours. And I've always been a supporter of natural health. So the very first thought was, let's see if we can find a way to improve the energy and stamina of the crew without having to use drugs. So that's when LifeWave really started.
I love it. I love it. So you took that concept and obviously it worked 20 plus years later. Tell us a bit of what happened. How did it go from the private sector to the public sector?
That's a great question. So I had developed the patches, and then 9/11 hit. So it was all during that window. And at that time, of course, what the government was interested in was developing weapons. So it was like a wall went up. The
Mm.
people that you would normally communicate with, you couldn't get in touch with. And I had a family to support, and contracts that we had were put on hold. And so there was really no telling at that time when things were going to change. So I decided that I was going to try to take the technology public since I had developed it. I wasn't under any burden to keep it a secret. And so in July of 2002, I set up LifeWave, and with the idea that I was going to see how can we do clinical studies, how can we set up manufacturing, how are we going to market this technology, and it was really like entering in a whole new world for me since I had been used to doing business with nuclear engineers and very bright mechanical engineers. So it was entering an entirely new world. But if it hadn't been for 9/11, this technology would have stayed secret, and it would have stayed with the military.
How interesting is that? The timing to be just that perfect. I mean, obviously we didn't want 9/11 to happen,
Right.
but it's always nice to hear something good come from something bad. So I'm so happy you didn't just scrap this and move on. That you had the courage and you had the cojones to say that you were going to start a company, because that does take a lot of faith and a lot of faith in yourself and a lot of faith in God and a lot of faith in general. Not everyone is cut out to start a company, but look at you. LifeWave is global. It's helping so many people, and it's so neat to see how far it's come in such a short time. I mean, 20 years is like a blink of an eye. I remember 2002. That's a blink of an eye. But what's cool is when we watch sports, we see major athletes wearing your technology, and that was the first patch you created. Which tell us just a little bit about that, because I want to talk about the studies, but that very first phototherapy patch that you created has worked so well for athletes. And that was designed first of all for the Navy SEALs, but why not for the average person?
Yeah, so back in 2002, 2004, in that window, it was very self-evident that there were going to be people that were interested in improving energy and improving fat burning in a natural, non-drug, non-chemical way. Really, the question was how to go to market with these, how to support them with clinical studies, and how to set up the manufacturing. So those early days were incredible because the first thing is I just got out on the street and went to visit medical doctors, acupuncturists, chiropractors, personal trainers, athletes, coaches, and just had them start using the product. I gave away many, many free samples so I could find out, okay, how is this really going to work in real life? And then in around 2003, I had the opportunity to meet Coach Richard Quick. And Richard was a 6-time United States Olympic swim coach. And he had countless number of awards. I think it was over 12 NCAA championships, and highly respected in the sport. And so I had reached him through a medical doctor, and he had said, "Okay, I'd like to give this technology a try, as long as you can convince me that it's safe and it's not going to cause any type of harm to my athletes." So I sent him out the energy patches, and he applied them to his Stanford women's swim team. And we spoke 3 weeks later. And what he had said was that he tried the patches on 8 of his swimmers. And during those 3 weeks, 6 out of the 8 swimmers had broke their personal lifetime best in their event. And one of the swimmers, Tara Kirk, had broken the world record in the 50-meter breaststroke. So Richard was absolutely convinced that this was working, and that began a long friendship, and we would work together for many, many years. So, and that also really played a very, very important role in the beginning of LifeWave, because it was having those Stanford women swimmers use the patches and get national attention that led to many, many other athletes hearing about LifeWave and using them.
I love it. It's so exciting. When I first started using your phototherapy technology, I had been going to the gym on a regular basis. I was going to Orange Theory at the time because I liked their structured classes. And when it came to doing the rowing, I could only row and this is aerobically row, where your heart rate is in that orange, like 150 beats a minute kind of thing,
Right.
for 5 minutes before I was needed to take a break. And I could not go more than 5 minutes. Just every time I went to class, I was going 3 times a week, couldn't row more than 5 minutes straight before I needed to take a break. And then we had this day where it was like a challenge day. And it just so happened to be the first day I walk in there wearing 2 pairs of energy enhancers, and as well as a few of your other patches that I adore. I did 23 minutes straight.
Oh, wow.
I went from 5 minutes. I'm not like an athlete. I'm a health nut, but I'm not I'm not this you wouldn't look at me and go, oh yeah, she's an athlete. I'm like, inside I'm like a pit bull. Like inside I'm an athlete, but in my heart, but I do not look like an athlete at all. And to go from 5 minutes to 23 minutes, I was, without a doubt, I was like, you can't call this placebo. And I have some fun stories about how I definitely know there's no placebo effect here. But that was I could not muster the will to go more than 5 minutes without the patches. And then boom, I had this huge improvement. And I also noticed my recovery is faster
Right.
during and after workouts. We switched gyms because my husband wanted to come with me. And we ended up doing. I like weightlifting more. I'm more into like just exerting myself in that way.
Wonderful.
And we noticed that when we wear the patches, we can lift more. It's almost like it's helping with lactic acid. Like we don't hit that fatigue. We can go longer before we get fatigue. Then we notice that we're less sore, that we recover faster, just everything. I love that there's that significant shift. Like I said to you before we hit record, I'm pinching myself still. I kind of, the first few months of wearing the patches, I'm like, is this real? Is this real? Because it's kind of, there's a skeptic in the back of my mind. And I tell my listeners I'm the biggest open-minded skeptic. But there's this, this little voice in my head going like, you're putting a sticker on yourself and then you are feeling better. Like what's going on? Now, we're wearing this technology. It's not transdermal, like we're not absorbing something from it like a vitamin patch or like a nicotine patch. It's not like that. That was my first thought when I first saw this. I'm like, so is this something, are you telling me I'm like absorbing energy from it? Not in the sense that you're placing a nutrient inside it for us to absorb, but I'd love for you to explain, since we've talked about the benefits and about the impact on athletes. How does wearing this phototherapy patch work?
Yeah. Before we get into some of the other science behind this and the clinical studies that we've done, we should talk about method of action, because
Okay.
the product, when you get right down to it, basically what it does is it's stimulating the skin with light, and this is inducing very favorable biochemical changes within the body. So to preface this, we would need to understand, well, why would that have an effect anyway? It's pretty self-evident that when we go out in the sun, our bodies are going to experience biochemical changes in the presence of light. Everybody knows you go out in the sun and you can get a suntan. So that's an example of UV light changing the melanin content in the skin. And interestingly, melanin, most people don't think about it this way, they just want to look good from a suntan. Melanin is an antioxidant. So actually what happens in the skin is the UV light is going to, being very high energy electromagnetic energy, is going to reduce the vitamin C and glutathione content in the skin, and in response to protect itself, the human body releases melanin as an antioxidant to shield the skin from further damage. So that's how we actually end up with a suntan. It's a defensive mechanism to protect us. But it's a very elegant way that everyone can relate to, that there is an interaction between light and the human body. One thing many men don't know, and this will explain some teenage and young adult behavior during the summer, is that when men take off their shirts and they go to the beach and they get sunlight on the androgen receptors in their shoulders, it elevates testosterone levels.
Really?
Yes, and dangerous around, young, horny teenage men and men in their 20s, because their testosterone levels are already high enough as it is. But that's an effect. In the absence of light, our bodies are going to elevate melatonin. So this is why it's very important for people to sleep in a room in the absence of light, so they can optimize their melatonin levels. And so when we look at how we were created, there is this incredible interface between the physical world and the spiritual world. And that intersection occurs right at the cell nucleus and right at the very center of the DNA. So when we look at how the DNA is structured, it's held together by hydrogen bonds. So there is, on one strand of DNA, you have hydrogen atoms, and on the other strand you have hydrogen atoms. And when these strands come together, the hydrogen atoms counter-rotate, and this holds the DNA together. Well, what's not very well known is that this is a very special structure, because coherent light comes out of the vacuum and enters into the cells. And the light is coherent in the sense that it is just the same as laser light. And so you have these highly coherent pulses of light that initiate thousands of different biochemical reactions in the cell. This is called signal induction and signal transduction, communications inside and outside the cell. So it's really the spiritual domain that is responsible for initiating the release of light into our cells, that guides the chemical reactions within the cell, which ultimately leads to the expression of our health. And this is one of many reasons why spiritual healing is the most powerful healing of all, then emotional healing, and then physical healing. So the reason why LifeWave works so well and so quickly is that we're tapping into this very basic mechanism of how the cells communicate within them and in their environment. And we're doing it with light, because that's how we were created, to communicate with light.
So to say that simply, although we cannot see it because we cannot see the full spectrum of light, we can only see a narrow band, right? There's a lot of light we can't see on either side of that spectrum.
Right.
Our cells are emitting light, our body is emitting light, and your wearable technology refracts that light back to us? Can we, you're just talking about the method of action first. You're talking about how the body is emitting light, and then we're
Right.
going to get into how your technology uses that light. But isn't it cool just to sit and contemplate for a moment that if we could see the full spectrum of light, we would just be light beings walking around. Like we would just, it would almost be like seeing angels, just like we're just like emanating light. Isn't that neat? We wouldn't see race. We wouldn't see, where someone's socioeconomic status. We would just be
Right.
walking around like these beautiful beings of light. This hit me a few days ago. I was just driving to park at Trader Joe's and I just was struck. I saw a bunch of people, walking to their cars, walking to Trader Joe's, like walking their dogs. And I felt like God said something to me. I love everyone. Look through my eyes. And I just started crying because I'm like, if we could just for one moment look at complete strangers, look at people who are Democrats, look at people who are Republicans, look at people who are Russians and Ukrainians, just like anyone from anywhere, and look at them through the eyes of like this pure love, as if you were their parent, as if you love them like they're your own children, and that's the vision God has. What was rushing through my brain was all the scripture of the gospel, and it's like, man, how interesting and how cool is that? We've been taught for thousands of years to like love each other, especially your enemies, but like just see them through that lens of love. And if we could just for a moment see the light that's emitted from each person. And in Indian faith, they say namaste, which I think has been told to me that it means I see the light that's in you that's also within me.
Wow.
And so just that idea that we are all emitting light, we're all beings of light. We can't see it, but we can measure it with different machines, which I'm sure you've done.
Yes, and that's really beautiful the way that you've expressed that. I think the other thing that I would say is, especially with everything that's going on in the world, to be talking about loving others in a true sense, even those people we may not necessarily like, it's great for society and it's really great for ourselves. What studies have shown is that when people live in a state of anger, no surprise that this causes very harmful effects for the adrenal glands, for the entire endocrine system, and it leads to acute, then chronic, elevated levels of oxidative and inflammatory stress. So, in other words, people that choose to live in a state of anger or a state of confrontation will see their health diminish more rapidly and they will suffer the consequences of aging more rapidly. And this may actually, turn out to be an interesting mechanism that nature has from the perspective of natural selection. In other words, people that choose to live in a state of anger will not be around very long.
Mm.
The disease will end up catching up with them. Whereas when people live in a state of love, it's the exact opposite. Studies have shown that when you live in a state of love and we elevate oxytocin, so you're a mom, and when you gave birth, you had a massive release of oxytocin, and this allows a mother and child to bond with one another. That's one of the things that this does. But if we have a lifestyle of loving others, the data is extraordinary because what it shows is that whether or not we're 60, 70, 80 years old, the oxytocin will regenerate muscle fibers. And the muscle fibers now resemble someone in their 20s or 30s. So this is showing, number one, we should be living in a state of love. And number two, something that I think we'll talk about later, which is our primary area of research, is that there are real biological ways to both stop and reverse human aging. And all we have to do is look at God's creation to see examples and then convert those examples to technology that human beings can implement. And but your message is, from my perspective, spot on.
I had mentioned earlier that I have examples of this. This is not a placebo effect because we have my clients and I have put your wearable technology on crying infants that are teething. Within 4 minutes, they're sleeping. They stop crying within a minute, and they fall asleep because they're out of pain. And there's thermography. I know several people who have done thermography that showed within minutes of wearing them that you could see significantly lower levels of inflammation in the body, which is just so cool. It's so cool that you could wear something, just put this little patch on, and boom, it's utilizing your own healing mechanism. I have a client, a dear friend of mine, who's a client for 12 years. She is bedridden. The doctors thought she would die years ago, but she's a fighter and also believes in holistic medicine. And her service dog could not jump up onto the bed anymore because he would help her adjust her pillows because she's been bedridden. And he had like a hip dysplasia, lots of pain. He wouldn't bite you, but he'd growl if you tried to touch his rear end. And we put a patch on his hips. And 2 minutes later, you could touch his leg. He stopped growling. And within 2 weeks, because he wore it every day during the day, within 2 weeks, he could jump back up on the bed. And that has been several months. He has been fully recovered. All his caretakers, because they have volunteers that walk him, say he's like a new dog. But this is just of two of dozens of stories I have where with animals, I have a client with horses. The horses, like immediately there was a shift in them and they were out of pain. I have another client who had a dog who he spent $7,000 on this puppy. The vet said it's failure to thrive. This puppy's going to die. I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. 7,000 with the vet bill, and we put the patches on him, and less than 3 days later, he was fully recovered. But we just have so many wonderful stories where we see it. If it works on children and it works on animals, that's a really strong indication that it's not a placebo effect, because this animal doesn't know or this baby doesn't know they're supposed to all of a sudden have no pain and go to sleep from wearing it. So it's so cool. And what I love is that your technology helps in the short term with that pain and inflammation, but then it stimulates the body's ability to heal itself in the long term. So we're seeing this reversal of so many issues. Before we jump into that topic of stopping and reversing human aging, can you tell us what happens when you apply a patch? Now that we know our body emits light, what happens when we wear your technology?
Yeah, fantastic question. So we've kind of taken a long way to get there, but it was a lot of important background information. So you take a patch and you apply it to the skin, and the patch is activated by body heat. And that was a very important criteria when I was designing these, because active electronic devices like lamps and cold lasers, they require a power source. They're big and bulky. They're not convenient. And this had to be something much, much simpler. So the patches use the human body as a power source, and they're activated by body heat. The patches are completely sealed, and they contain only natural materials. Stereoisomers of amino acids and sugars are two of the principal ingredients. Once they're activated by body heat, the patches will start to reflect a blend of different wavelengths of light that stimulate the skin, and this induces an effect called photobiomodulation. And that simply means that what we're doing is causing a very favorable change in the biochemistry of the cell. So if we used X39 as an example, you apply the patch, it stimulates the skin with light, and then that light will increase the energy production in the cell. That'll be kind of the first step. And if you wanted to get into the details about that, we could. The next thing that happens is you get some very favorable changes in gene expression. And in our blood and urine studies, what we found is that there is an increase in the production of something called GHKCU, which is a copper peptide, and it's very, very powerful at helping the cells behave like younger cells. And in our urine studies, we see upregulation of different amino acids that are associated with muscle protein synthesis and sleep. So, in your example, when you're saying, you go to the gym and you work out and you notice you recover more quickly, that's exactly what's happening. The metabolism of the cell has improved. So you can build muscle, strength, and stamina much more quickly with this technology and do it naturally and do it without any type of drugs.
And I've experienced that firsthand. So I can tell you it's pretty amazing. I'm actually wearing my two favorite patches right now, which is Eon and X39. I know because of the FDA's new regulations around talking about stem cells, we're not really allowed to talk about it, but can you talk about the studies around it? Or I don't want to
Sure.
ask you to say something you're not allowed to say, but there's so much proven science here.
Yeah, I mean, what I would do is talk about the years of research that we did in stem cells. I mean, that's completely fair game. So what happened with this was we had gone through two different evolutions in the company, two different generations. The first one was the release of the energy patches, and what soon followed about a year later were the release of Icewave and Silent Nights. So I think we would be properly described as a lifestyle company. Products that can improve, energy, relieve pain, improve the quality of sleep, and that was all fine. We did great for during our first few years, but very quickly after that, starting in about 2006, I started to develop products that could produce anti-aging effects. And since I've been in my teens, I have been very, very interested in finding ways to slow or reverse human aging. And this led to the development of the glutathione patch, the carnosine patch, and then the Eon patch. So that trio, which was released between 2006 and 2011, helped to reshape who we were as a company and the way that our products were used. And also, it started to create a very, very interesting path for us um, because I started thinking about okay, if we can get these very dramatic anti aging effects from these products, what's next? And where would we want to be in 10 years? So it was at that point in the late 2000s that I started thinking about stem cells. And uh, back then, it was evident to me that stem cells were going to be the future. Of course, we see it very, very clearly today. But back then, I already wanted to start investing money into stem cell technology and see if we could do it in a way that would be different than the way everybody else was doing it. So at that, during that time, what people, of course, were doing were looking at umbilical cord stem cells that you would harvest from body fat, from bone marrow, and this was all about injecting cells into the body, and that is completely fine, and no question that let's say over the next 10, 20 years, people will be able to go to a hospital, get an injection of stem cells, and it's going to save people's lives. But I wanted to approach this subject in a very, very different way. Instead of injecting stem cells in the body, which potentially have very harmful side effects, what if we could get the stem cells that are already in our body and get them to behave like younger, healthier cells? So this would have huge advantages. It would be safe, it would be very, very inexpensive. And the hope was that we could create something that would be at least as effective as getting an injection of stem cells. So, so that was kind of the idea behind this. And I generated, well over 70 patents, 80 patents now, over a course of 10 years. And these patents had to do not only with light therapy, but with pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. We did this work at the National University of Ireland. This is on the west coast of Ireland, and we worked at the Regenerative Medicine Institute. We were incredibly blessed to work with Dr. Tim O'Brien, who's one of the leading stem cell scientists in the world. And we got to do a number of studies showing that you could, in fact, using energy, duplicate the results of a stem cell injection.
Wow.
We did a study where mesenchymal stem cells, or MSCs, were applied to an injury site. And then we used a device that was creating this proprietary electromagnetic field. And we found that, number one, the energetic treatments were equivalent to a stem cell injection. And you could speed up healing, 25, 30% over baseline. So those initial experiments that we did at the university were incredibly rewarding because it did show, in fact, that there was a way that you could have energy medicine devices that could heal and support the healing process of the body, and it be equivalent to stem cell injections.
You took that information into creating now you have 2 patches. But are we allowed to talk about that? Are we allowed to say that these patches are known to stimulate our own body's own stem cell production?
Well, unfortunately, at the end of last year, the FDA, they changed their position on this. We're regulated as a general wellness device. And so as a result, we can talk about the athletic benefits of the product, how it improves recovery, strength, stamina, how it supports sleep, how it will improve the flow of energy in the body. We can talk about these kind of things. But what we've done since then is we've developed nutritional supplements. And these nutritional supplements, we have information on our website about this. We'll co-market them with the patches. And with the nutritional supplements, they're designed to support the health and vitality of the stem cells in the body.
See, this makes total sense, and I'm so glad that you developed these supplements. I've looked at the ingredients, and this isn't something that is going to replace like all the supplements that someone takes, because someone's like, oh, well, I'm already taking really good supplements, so I don't need to take this. No. LifeWave, the LifeWave supplements that are coming out, you're going to want to try. I've looked into them, and what a few years ago, I had a doctor come on my show who's a stem cell doctor. That's all he does. He injects stem cells into knees and hips all day long. And I said to him, okay, so stem cells, not a lot of people know what stem cells are. They're like these blank slate cells that they're just a nondescript cell. And when it comes into that area, let's say the hip cartilage, it's going to help become healthy new hip cartilage. It'll become what it is needed in that area. And I said to him, if someone has degenerative arthritis because it's a nutrient deficiency, right? Unless this person's like some ultra marathon runner and has put too much load or too much stress onto their body, because we're always under stress and to some degree, right? We're walking around and we're always trying to consume more nutrition to rebuild our body, right? We're breaking down and building up. And so people who have arthritis, what they don't know, because your medical doctor's not properly trained in this, they're trained in prescribing drugs, they're not trained in teaching us how to help our body heal itself, that it's a degenerative disease because we were breaking down more than we were building up, because we did not have the nutrients to build ourselves up. And so that's why there can be a 90-year-old with no arthritis standing beside a 40-year-old with arthritis. And it really is a nutrient problem. LifeWave phototherapy patches is something I tell all my clients. This isn't a replacement for nutrition because it doesn't add nutrients. It's not molecular medicine, right? It's energetic. It's a frequency which has an effect because of photobiomodulation on the physical changes in the body and in the cell. So we do see physical effects, but it's not adding more glutathione to your body. It's asking your body to produce more glutathione. So we still need to give the body the raw building blocks. Like it'd be like asking a carpenter to build a house, but sorry, I'm not giving you any bricks, right? So
Right.
what's this carpenter going to do? Like the body wants to rebuild every day, but if we don't give it the bricks, it's not going to be able to. So the fact that you've created very specific supplements that's going to be easy to take, that will nutrify the body and give the body those raw building blocks specifically for supporting your stem cells, which then we can help to stop and reverse human aging, is super exciting. And then on top of that, use that frequency technology, that wearable technology, to stimulate those outcomes further. So I can't tell you how excited I am to try the supplements. Coming from someone who's a big believer in holistic medicine and supplements, really high quality supplements changed my life, helped save my life. That, and of course, eating a clean diet. So I know the feeling of being fully nutrified, and I know the feeling of being super depleted. And most people are walking around depleted and then self-medicating with alcohol, sugar, caffeine, because they're exhausted because they're so depleted. So I love that you're supporting us in this aspect as well.
Yeah, when I was developing these supplements, and I've been studying supplements for over 40 years. I'd actually, you mentioned your son before having allergies. That's actually how I got into nutrition. When I was about 13, I was going to a summer camp, and being outside all day, I would inhale pollen, and I had these terrible allergies, and I had to be on medication. And I thought there has to be a natural way to deal with this instead of having these drugs and feeling tired and sleepy all the time. And that's what started me on my journey. And then for many, many years, I worked with a medical doctor. His name was Steve Haltiwanger, who's a medical doctor and clinical nutritionist. And he and I would have very, very lengthy conversations on using nutrients therapeutically to treat different types of health conditions. So it was, quite an education over more than 40 years. So when I was developing these supplements, I was looking at our line of patch products and thinking, okay, if someone wanted to use any one of our daytime products or our nighttime products, what nutrients would they need to really optimize the results and get the best results? So the idea behind this is that you could take the daytime formula, and regardless of which one of the patches you wanted to use, or if you wanted to use multiple patches at the same time, that this one supplement was going to have all of the essential nutrients that you needed to get the best results out of the product. So really good example is that many people decide they want to be a vegan or a vegetarian for various reasons, and they're not going to get enough beta alanine or creatine or glycine or cysteine in their diet. These are going to be nutrients which are principally associated with red meat or other meat products. So this would be an issue because if someone wasn't getting enough cysteine, then they're not going to be able to make enough glutathione, and that could compromise their immune system. And then that potentially opens them up to a number of different health disorders. So we would know, for example, that Parkinson's disease is always associated with a deficiency in glutathione. So, and of course, we're not making any medical claims here. But the idea behind this is that, regardless of someone's diet, and of course we want people to have as healthy a diet as possible, they could take this supplement and it would give them the nutrients that they would need to get the best results with the patches. And of course, that is going to provide a very efficacious response, and they'll really notice this in their overall health.
Now, these supplements haven't been released yet, but they're coming out soon. Do you have any studies to share about the supplements that you're coming out with?
Yeah, those are things that we have in development. We wanted to let people know at the beginning of the year that this was something that was coming and it was a direction that we were going in. And so we, of course, we formulated these. We have samples. We've gotten them into the stage where they're, the finished product. And yeah, we're putting them through all the tests that we normally would. I mean, basically, what we'll do is we have a few researchers where we do our blood tests, our urine tests, and then other measures of, let's say, athletic performance. We'll look at measures of strength, stamina, grip strength, flexibility. Those are the type of tests that we would normally do.
How many studies have there been in the last 20 years that have been published on LifeWave's technology? Last I heard, it was close to 100
Oh,
studies.
it's it's over 80.
Okay.
I have I haven't done I haven't taken a look recently, but it's and counted them. But there's way over 80 studies. Not all of them are published, um, but many of them are, and those studies are on all of our products. And then for each individual product, we use different methodologies. Some products will do the blood and urine testing, such as with X39. Other products, we will do infrared testing, especially with IceWave and Eon. And then we'll use a variety of different bioelectrical tests. So with IceWave, with energy, we've used heart rate variability tests. We've used electrointerstitial scanning to look at organ function with Eon, glutathione, energy patches, and electroacuoscopes to look at knee pain before and after with IceWave. So we've used a very, very broad array of different types of diagnostics to quantify the effects that people see with the patches.
So the skeptic in me and in the listeners is like, well, you own the company, but you're also doing the studies. So how do you, tell the truth? I've read the studies and I've seen that and I think I've even heard you talk about it, where the scientists involved and the labs involved sign a contract that says I am not being paid to give some, faulty information. I am, everything that's provided here is real results. And even if the results were negative, these are the results.
Right.
But I'd love for you to share from that standpoint, because I think it's important that companies do invest in, and it's quite a lot of money to invest in studies. And I love that. I love that you do it. And I wish that all companies invested in studies about their products, but then also how do we keep it third party, or how do we keep it authentic? Because through the years I've heard, oh, the sugar industry, or like some kind of like Snickers bar or Mars bar or whatever was behind like the study that says that it's healthy to eat a spoonful of sugar a day, and you're like,
Right.
oh, really? Like, it's like funded by, like, it's healthy to drink chocolate milk, funded by Kellogg's, and you're like, oh, really?
Yeah.
There's, or Nestle, Nesquik or something. Like, of course you're saying that. So of course, a company would say, here's all the positive studies, but you actually have genuine results. But can you talk a bit about that to clarify for those who are a little skeptical about companies that produce their own studies?
Yeah, first, this is a fantastic question. So thank you so much for bringing this up because it's such an important subject. There's an interesting phenomena in this world, and that is, in order for a company to go to market with a health product, you have to be able to demonstrate to Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, that you have proof that your product does what you say. So you have a product, and then there's two components to this. First, how are you going to be regulated by the FDA? And in our case, we're general wellness. And then how are you going to advertise your product? What are you going to tell people? And are the claims going to be legitimate, or are they going to be false and misleading? So the FTC has a requirement that you have to have, and this has changed over the years, but the current standard is that you have to have at least one double-blind, placebo-controlled study for a product that will support the product usage and the safety and the efficacy and the claims. Now, if you do pilot studies like we do, so in other words, we'll do a pilot study to make sure that the protocol that we have for a study works before we go to our double blinds. The FTC will accept a pilot study as part of the overall evidence, but they want to see these double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. So the immediate dilemma that a company is in is that in order to take your product to market, you legally have to have these studies. So you have to pay a third-party lab to do it. So this is a very, very standard practice. So for example, let's say that you had Estee Lauder or L'Oreal or any cosmetic company, and they want to come out with a new type of eye cream. Well, they have to hire a laboratory to do a study. So they'll, like Estee Lauder, they've used a company called BioScreen in the past. And they'll hire BioScreen and they'll pay them to do the study. Now, BioScreen will, as an example of a clinical lab, will release a statement and they'll say, we are getting paid to do the study, but we do not receive any type of benefit from doing this. We're not shareholders in the company. We aren't distributors, so we have no type of financial interest in the business. Therefore, we can conduct this study as a third party and present the results. And this is the standard practice in the industry, and it is very well accepted by the FTC. So no company can rely on, let's say, a university to do a study for them because it's simply too expensive, and you'd never get things to market. I would also say the drug companies follow similar standards. In other words, they want to take a drug to market. Either they have to do the research or they have to pay a third-party lab to do it, but somebody is funding those studies. So these are the standards. These are the standards that companies have to live by, and it's up to the companies and the labs to ensure that there is nothing nefarious happening and the results that are being presented are true and accurate. Now, it's also up to the consumer to decide. So, for example, in some studies, you could have a company make a claim about the study which is true, but it is not representative of it's not really representative of the actual results that people will experience, which is really against the FTC. So as an example, we were told that the COVID vaccines, the mRNA vaccines, were safe and effective. Well, Moderna released this past week that the mRNA vaccines have toxic side effects. So let's say that they did a study and one person out of 100 didn't have a side effect. They could say, well, if you use the product, you may not have any side effects. And that'd be a true statement because 1 out of 100 people didn't, but it wouldn't be representative statistically. So you'll see in our studies, which are located in the back office of our website, that you can see the statistics and it'll say, okay, 86% of the people got this benefit.
Love it. For the comment you just made, if it was just a year ago, YouTube would have taken this interview down. I think we're in the clear now, but for a few years, anytime I interviewed someone about anything to do with the COVID vaccines or COVID in general, YouTube was censoring my interviews with highly trained doctors. I had one doctor, Dr. Fleming, is like I think multiple PhD research scientist, just top of his field, and YouTube takes it down saying, this is incorrect and you're spreading false information. I'm like, Are you kidding me? So, yeah, it's interesting times we live in, and now we get to look back and see what these pharmaceutical companies are saying now
Right.
about the products that they said are safe. And actually, I did a whole interview on with an expert in the pharmaceutical industry on how they skipped the trials, the safety trials necessary to prove it was safe, and then fudged the numbers. Of course, that interview was also banned from YouTube.
Oh, is ludicrous. You know, they
Yeah.
the study for the booster, you might recall, I believe they did it on like 8 or 13 mice. So before they released the booster, they didn't even do a study on human beings. They did it
No.
on mice,
Hmm.
and then they said, okay, this is going to be fine, and it's just complete nonsense.
Right.
And now today we know that the pharma was less than truthful.
Right. And then to say it to parents, like to shame them, like, you're killing grandmas by not giving your 6-year-old this, untested, but it's safe. Just take our word for it. And it's just really sad. It's very sad and wrong. And this is why we need to critically think for ourselves and just don't blindly trust anything. Don't blindly trust me. Don't blindly trust anyone. Just look into things deeper for yourself and put politics aside. Put
Right.
self-judgment aside. Put your belief system to the side. Question your own belief system, I think, is the healthiest thing to do. And that's why I come into everything a bit skeptical but open-minded enough to take on new information and not let my bias sway my judgment. So that's why it took me a little bit longer to come to trying LifeWave, because at first I was too skeptical, and then I caught myself. I'm like, wait a second, I'm not even following my own rules here. And the very first day I wore your patches was such a phenomenal experience. It was so powerful, and it kind of feels like divinely guided because so I lost my daughter a few years ago, and I was having PTSD, and I'm normally a very cheerful, happy person, but it took me a while to recognize that I was suffering from PTSD, and I'd have these PTSD attacks. And the day my patches arrived in the mail, I was in an attack. And my husband got on the phone with Trina, who was a practitioner that I interviewed about the patches, and he said, "Okay, what patches do I put on her? What do we do?" And he put patches on me the way she has now taught me to do with my clients, and we have such great success with this protocol. It felt like someone reached into my brain and turned the knob down from 11 to like 2.
Wow.
I felt instantly grounded back in the room. I could tolerate like light, I could tolerate noise, I could tolerate my family being around me, whereas before I just wanted to be in a dark room. And my whole nervous system came back into balance very quickly, and I was just so stunned that I had this phenomenally positive emotional experience, but also feeling my physiology come out of a fight or flight response and come back into rest and digest in that moment. And I was like, I could not believe it. Now, not everyone has this like giant life altering, earth shaking experience the moment they put a patch on. But I've had other situations where, like, I have a client who's a type 1 diabetic, and he has peripheral neuropathy, can't feel his feet. And within minutes of wearing the same protocol, actually, that I was wearing, he started screaming, like, my feet are hot. I can feel my feet. I can feel temperature in my feet. And he was just so excited. And we've had other experiences where within minutes, people start feeling sensations or feeling a shift. And sometimes it takes a while. Like, I have a client, she patched for a whole month, swore she didn't feel anything, but then she went from being suicidal, depressed, not wanting to leave the house, to going out every day and loving life and making new friends. And that and just that huge shift in her sleep, in her energy, in her mood through that month, the first month of patching. Although she said she didn't feel anything wearing them, we started to see results in her life. So I just thought that was really neat. So there's a lot of studies, and we obviously don't have enough time to go over all 80 studies, although you have webinars that unpack many of these studies.
Right.
Do you have a study that's like your favorite, or do you have, kind of like your top 3 that you would like to share?
Yeah, so I think what I'd say is that when we do our studies on a new product, the first study that we do that validates that the product works, is always going to be my favorite. And in this particular case, because it meant such an incredible thing to our business, that would be the first blood study that we did on X39. So it had taken months to work with a laboratory in Southern California and San Diego to develop the protocols for the blood testing. So we originally started with a lab in Northern California and then another lab in Southern California. And we had went back to Dr. Lauren Picard, who was the individual that discovered copper peptide, and asked him for the protocols that he was using and the standards for the blood testing. And that was very helpful, but it really didn't provide all the information that we needed. But fortunately, we worked with a very talented PhD in biochemistry. We eventually developed this protocol. We set up a pilot study, and we did in fact find that within the first 24 hours of applying the X39 patch to the body, that there was a statistically significant improvement in both GHK and GHK-Cu. We then went on to do several other studies. We did one that was published in Internal Medicine Research. And in this study, it was a double-blind, placebo-controlled study with X39. We used 60 people over the age of 40. And again, we found out that just within the first 24 hours and then within the first week of using X39, that we saw statistically significant improvements in levels of GHK and GHK-Cu. So those studies are, probably by far my favorite because it showed that we could use light to elevate this peptide, and this peptide gives us a path to human age reversal. In other words, GHK is going to be a very powerful way to regulate and reset genes in the body. And if we can use light to elevate this peptide, then there should be a way that we can find that we can reset other genes to a more youthful state and slow down or even reverse human aging. So I've spent the last 5-6 years working on that now.
I'm in a secret Facebook group with my team, a very intimate group of about 57,000 people. And
that's very intimate.
It's
very...
so intimate. Actually, it's one of my favorite places to be online. It was created by this amazing woman, Joyce, in my team of practitioners are working with LifeWave phototherapy patches with their clients. And there's thousands of practitioners in this group. There's well over 6,000 practitioners and their clients and patients and friends and family. And in order to get into this group, you have to be a client basically, or a customer of myself or one of the other practitioners in this group. So anyone who's listening, if you haven't already purchased LifeWave from someone else and you would like to get in this group, please contact me. Go to learntruehealth.com and in the menu, select Work with Ashley James and sign up for the free conversation about the phototherapy patches. So in this group, we have many of us sharing our experiences, and there's a lot of personal testimonials and before and after photos. And there are countless. You could scroll for well over half an hour reading about the age reversal. And in photos, you can see it. Many men and women, just as an example, who had bald spots, who after using the X39 patch for about a year no longer have bald spots. They've grown back hair, a full head of hair. And I was really impressed to see men with bald spots no longer have bald spots, but even the women who've had really thinning hair now have a full head of hair. And then several women have taken pictures of their roots growing back in the normal, the color they were born with, like the color, they had in their teenage years, because their hair's turned gray or, They have some gray hairs, and those gray hairs are going away. And I thought, how cool is that? That the literally age reversing. But we have other great testimonials about people no longer having arthritis pain, and just tremendous pictures you can see before and afters of like wounds healing quickly, surgery scars healing super fast, and even scars going away. I have a scar from an auto accident on my forehead that is just disappearing. So it's interesting to see on the outside, because the body does triage work. So the body does all this internal healing first, and then it works on hair, skin, and nails. So when people start saying, wow, my nails are growing really thick and strong, and my hair's coming in really thick, and my skin looks younger and it's tighter, my skin's firmer, and the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles is going away, like all this, vein stuff. But for me, even though it is, we're talking about vanity here, but when we look younger on the outside and we're also feeling younger, we know that there's stuff happening on the inside, because the body does the triage work first on the inside, on the organs that matter.
That's absolutely correct. And the type of things, that we look at in our research would be not for vanity, but they ended up, having a number of beneficial effects on appearance. So, for example, collagen is, of course, the most abundant protein in the body, and it forms what's called the cytoskeleton. And most people aren't familiar with this term, but it would simply be the structural protein that holds together the cell. And the fibroblasts are what produce collagen. And the issue is that as we age, and it starts at about age 25, I'm sorry to say, for humanity, is that our bodies start to slow down the production of collagen. So you could say we really start aging at age 25. An incredibly important mechanism that should not be overlooked is finding natural ways to turn on the fibroblasts, increase collagen production. And what this will do is volumize, increase the size of the cell. This will increase the electrical charge on the cell membrane, and this ultimately has an effect on gene expression. So in some of this is going to be maybe a little bit mind-blowing, or maybe it won't be, but we have new technology that I invented now that's capable of doing this and reversing aging by about 2 to 3 years in only 10 minutes. And we're able to use light in an entirely new way now to turn on systems in the cell that make this possible.
So when does that technology get released?
Well, Ashley,
I'm lining up.
it is our 20th anniversary, and I feel a responsibility to our wonderful brand partners that have been there, all these years to support the health and growth of the business, to do something extraordinary. So I would say that a little bit later this year, we're going to be releasing this new technology and having a very nice celebration over it.
I am super excited. I did hear wind of this a few months ago when you started talking about it, and I am very excited. I just geek out on this. Like, we are tapping into, it's like we're pushing this invisible buttons in the body, like asking the body to express in a way that is healthier, younger, and it's just so cool. It's super neat. One of my favorite studies, and maybe if you, I mean, obviously you know so many of your own studies, but could you speak to the study they did when in South Africa with the glutathione patch on 40 autistic children?
Well, that was not a study that we sponsored, and
Got it.
we don't make claims about treating or curing any type of disease. What I will say is that over the years, we've had people, parents, use the glutathione patch on their kids and report to us that their autistic children are much more calm. They notice a significant improvement in their mood, in their mental clarity, and of course, an overall improvement in their health. And what I would recommend, I once had an opportunity to meet Jenny McCarthy, who, as you know, she had worked to help her special needs child. And what I'd recommend is that a parent work with a natural health practitioner and build up the child's health from the ground up. So that means constructing a program of eating foods that are going to be healthy, non GMO, trying to keep the chemicals out of the body, um, and then supplementing as needed, and then using the technology like the patches. And it is remarkable, really remarkable, how many benefits an autistic child can get from taking a natural approach. They don't have to be the victims of being on pharmaceuticals their entire lives. They can make a meaningful turnaround. And of course, the sooner that a child starts, the better.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited. I've been seeing the results in my own son, and it's super interesting. Like the other day, we were working on a science project together. We're doing a project on Mount St. Helens, and he was building, like, with a 3D model that he printed, was building a way for it to emit steam. So we had this little, like, circuit board with a vibration plate, and it emits steam out of Mount St. Helens. It
Wow,
looks so cool, yeah.
incredible.
And he was getting frustrated, as you know we do when things aren't going our way, and we're trying to get the electronics to work. And he would start getting frustrated, and so we put two patches on him. That is a protocol that we've seen work for calming the nervous system and increasing focus. And my husband, he ran to the patches and actually put it on all of us because, as parents, we need to calm down too, right?
Yeah.
And so all three of us put those patches on, and we all noticed for the rest of the evening, we all felt calmer and we felt focused. And our son got his project completed. Without letting frustration, take hold. And it was super interesting to watch because we both looked at him when he was on the couch working on his project, and it's like his whole demeanor changed within minutes of putting the patches on. He went from being kind of distracted and frustrated to being super focused and happy and calm. And that's how I feel every day using them. It's so wild. It's like I'm a big Star Trek, sci-fi geek, and this is just like you are like bringing Star Trek into my life, bringing this type of technology into our lives, which is so cool. I have all these wonderful questions from my team, but before we jump into them, I wanted to make sure that we completed our conversations around stopping and reversing human aging. Was there anything else you wanted to say about that?
Oh, well, there.
Do you have 5
I would
hours?
say, there's probably a couple hours worth of content on that. But I think what I would say, just maybe as a teaser, and then I'd be happy to talk to you about it in full another time, is remarkably, remarkably, the answers to many of these questions come straight from the Bible. And I didn't find this out until studying species that don't age, that there was a numerical code in living organisms that were not aging, and that this numerical code was also in the Bible. And that would require, quite a lengthy conversation, which I'm not really ready to talk about because I want to release that a little bit later in the year. But what I would say is, when I not to be a complete tease, when I started looking at the story of Adam and Eve and the tree of life, and then converting the story from English over to Hebrew, the original Hebrew, and then converting Hebrew over into numbers. So, of course, Hebrew and Greek will convert over into numerical counterparts. That remarkably, in the story of the Garden of Eden and the Tree of Life, uh, those numerical sequences convert into numbers, which convert over into frequencies and wavelengths of light. And those wavelengths of light are the wavelengths that we use to turn on mitochondrial function that alters gene expression back to a more youthful state. So, what this is to say is that in the book of Genesis, in the story of creation, there is a mathematical code there instructing us on how to reverse aging.
My mind is blown. Oh, that's so cool. I can't wait to hear your discussion further on this when you decide to unpack it completely. But what a great teaser.
Yeah, I'm going to release that information in full, and it's not something that I want to have it stay hidden, but it requires quite a bit of time to go through it and show the mathematical proof. But I am going to do that later this year because it's to me it's one of the most important messages that people can hear is that God is real. God did, in fact, create the universe, created all things, and left his signature in living organisms. And that information on how to extrapolate that diagnostic equipment has not been available only for maybe about the past 20 years or so. And so that meaning the author of the Bible could not possibly know what these frequencies were. Yet they were embedded into the Bible because the Bible's the true inspired word of God. So it's critically important that people get this information.
I feel honored to be just a small part of helping spread this information. It's so neat to be part of this. I'm so excited. I'm moved to tears. This is very exciting. Well, just the fact that I've had so many clients thank me and thank you for changing their lives, for helping them in such significant ways improve their health, both mentally, emotionally, and physically improve their health and end their suffering. So many of them. And then in our very intimate, small, secret group of 56, almost 57,000 people, they're every day. People are saying that their suffering is ended because of what you've created, and then they share their story and they share how they did it with your technology. It's just it's so exciting. Tell me how much time do you have currently? Can we jump into the questions or
Yeah, sure.
should?
Let's go ahead.
Okay, cool, awesome. Joyce asks, and you know Joyce. Ask him about the different electrical potentials in each patch. Which one has the highest electrical potential?
Well, it doesn't work that way exactly. It's it's a really interesting question. So the patches are going to stimulate the skin with different wavelengths of light, and then the patch will induce an increase in energy production in the cell. And we did these studies looking at electrical potential back many, many years ago now. I'm going to say, let's say, circa 2010, 2012. And at that time, what we found was that, interestingly, the SP6 patch produced the highest increase in electrical charge in the cell. Now, I don't think we would say that today. I'm pretty certain that it would be X39 that would induce the most powerful electrical change in the cell. And I'm only basing that based on the blood and urine work that we've done and how broad the effects of X39 are.
Hmm.
But we haven't compared X39 to SP6 in that regard. But my money would be on X39.
Both of them within seconds of applying, I've had myself personally, my family, and my clients have incredible results, but very different. Those are two are very different patches.
Right.
SP6, I've seen take a cat out of heat within a minute of applying it, completely out of
Oh,
heat. It was
wow.
so cool. It was one of my clients' cats, and several clients stopped the hot flashes immediately. I do have one client though who's upset at you because she was menopausal and did not have a period for a long time, and now her cycle is back. And I said, that's a good thing. Your body is reversing its age. And she's like, I thought I was done with this and now I'm back to having a period. I'm like, your body thinks it's younger. This is a good thing. And there's proof that, the longer we're fertile, the longer we have longevity and health and good bone health and all around. So super interesting that a phototherapy patch could take a woman out of menopause and give her fertility again. Kristen says, any major contraindications to patching other than organ transplant?
What I would say is that what we're legally obligated to say is that if anyone has a serious health condition, they need to speak with their practitioner before using the patches. As a practical matter, identifying organ transplants as a problem, that would be quite accurate. Another thing I would be concerned about is people going through chemotherapy. And most oncologists, they do not want their patients taking any type of antioxidants. So glutathione would be something they definitely don't want their patients to be taking. And what they believe is that the glutathione is going to protect the cancer cells from the chemo. I don't think that's really necessarily true. I've certainly met many medical doctors that are using glutathione therapeutically by IV in treating cancer patients. Matter of fact, I met a medical doctor once from Mexico using garlic extract, which contains germanium sesquioxide, along with glutathione, and he claimed to have about an 85% success rate at putting people into remission. But in any case, if someone is going through radiation treatment or chemotherapy, they should speak with their oncologist. What I would say they could think about as a protocol is using the patches post chemotherapy to help detoxify the body and support the health of the immune system. But there's certainly many more elegant ways to do that. Dr. Frank Schallenberger, who's a medical doctor and probably the world's authority on ozone therapy, has a program for using low dose chemo, the minimum that would be legally required, along with natural therapies like ozone, IV vitamin C, melatonin, and megadosing as cancer therapy.
I so agree with you that if someone's facing cancer, that their the success rates are higher often focusing on natural medicine or integrative medicine and not the traditional cut, burn, and poison that we're seeing. Just does not have great outcomes, especially when they fudge the numbers and their version of survival rate is giving you 5 years,
Right.
whereas we want you to have longevity for the rest of your life. We want you to have health for the rest of your life and a very long life at that. Lisa asks, can you wear too many patches to the point of where you're wasting them?
I would say there is a point of diminishing returns, but it depends on which product we're talking about. So I would say the majority of the time, one patch is enough. When we do our studies, the studies are based on use of a single patch and not double patching. The one or two products that would be exceptions that we know of would be glutathione and LifeWave. So while we've done studies just using single patches, what I can tell you from patching thousands of people, that there are certain cases, let's say that if a person is in pain, where applying one set of LifeWave on the bottom of the feet and then another set of patches on the upper torso, could be the lower back, could be the shoulders, depends on where the pain is. That would be much more effective than just applying a single set of IceWave. So this would be someone that had chronic pain throughout their body. Two
Mm-hmm.
sets of IceWave more effective than one set. I've also had enormous success when working with people when using multiple glutathione patches, but that would be for very specific situations.
Got it. I've used multiple eons around the
Okay.
head on specific parts of the head. We call it the brain balancer protocol. And it is what I had a concussion. I accidentally got kicked in the head at full force.
Oh no.
I immediately, I know, it was last summer. It was pretty wild. My son does taekwondo, and he didn't realize that I was there, and he was practicing a kick. And well, anyways, I took it to the face at full force. I put a carnosine on my nose because my nose was blowing up like I just got hit by a boxer. I put a carnosine on my nose and immediately stopped the throbbing and brought down the inflammation, which was so cool. For me, it's like the first aid patch. Put it over anything with like tendonitis or anything with like inflammation. So I put it on my nose, and then the eons, which I put on specific points around the head, I slept with that. And the next day I woke up and my concussion was completely gone. I was
Wow.
back to normal. And it was just the coolest thing. But I've seen this in other people in our very intimate secret Facebook group of 57,000 people. We have several people who have recovered fully from concussion and even post concussion syndrome. They've shared their experiences. Again, not making medical claims, but they've shared their experiences no longer having the symptoms of concussion after using specific patches. Now, you said you don't need more than one patch, and what you were referring to is that one type of patch. But if someone were to wear a few types of patches, it's okay to wear more than, like, you can wear an Eon and a glutathione and an X39 at the same time, and that's fine, right?
Yeah, we haven't had any issues with that. Um, so, for example, on a regular basis, my typical protocol would be X39 on the back of the neck, X49 uh, below the belly button, and then a set of energy patches.
Nice. Love it. Sherry says, to piggyback on Lisa's question, if someone wears several patches at once, can they feel sensations of overstimulation? Like if they decide to wear 20 patches, they just go nuts. Is there a point where it's not a great experience if you put too many patches on?
Well, you could have someone that, let's say, let's say you had someone that was a heavy smoker. If you applied even one glutathione patch, they may go through a rapid detox. Um, and then you would just remove the patch, drink plenty of water, and it's fine. So a rapid detox might be like a headache or fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, um, yeah, I would say that could be that could be one of the effects of using too many patches would be a rapid detox.
Got it. And out of 160 clients, I've only had two situations where they decided to put on too, like, quote unquote, too many patches, and they kind of just felt out of it. And then I said, okay, well, take some off. And they said, okay. And then they're like, oh, I feel better. I feel fine again. So sometimes people like to do, and I'm guilty of this, if a little is good, then more is better. And the good news is there's no damage. It's not like drugs that have a negative effect on you that last a long time. It's if you don't feel well, like you said, you're having detox symptoms, then just take the patch off, drink some water, and you'll feel fine.
Yep, right.
Let's see here. Lisa's friend asks, where does he feel the body receives the light energy the best, and why?
So this happens in the cell, and this would not be an opinion. This is based on clinical studies. It starts in the electron transport chain. And interestingly, this happens with a copper-based compound called cytochrome C oxidase. So, cytochrome C oxidase is a chromophore, and it is light sensitive. So what's been shown is that there are certain wavelengths of light that will turn on production or activation of cytochrome C oxidase, and this is in the final stage of the electron transport chain. And electron transport chain, biochemically, is what is going to help us turn our food over into energy. So if we upregulate cytochrome C oxidase, then what in turn happens is we increase energy production in the mitochondria. And then the result of that is a number of things, but very importantly, we can make more hormones, we can increase protein synthesis, and improve improve the tissue conductivity, so pain goes down. There's a variety of beneficial effects that occur, but basically it starts with chromophores in the body, and the example of that is cytochrome C oxidase.
Love it. Lisa's friend also asked, and I just love this question, what would you say to a child to explain explain the patches? Just explain how they work, or just explain them in general.
Yeah, what I would say is that our planet and our bodies depend on light. So we know that we need the sun for life on this planet, and that includes our bodies because we live in harmony with nature. So the patches work with this system. The patches use light the same way that nature does to improve our health. And of course, you know, how it does that is more complicated, but basically the patches are stimulating the body with light and improving the flow of energy. And this is completely in harmony with nature.
Deb asks, is it beneficial to always have patches on if they are always in different locations, or does the body require a rest from them?
Body should have a rest period. And in phototherapy, this is called attenuation, where if you stimulate the body with the same wavelengths continuously, eventually the body stops responding. This would be similar to when people drink coffee every day and they keep getting a hit of caffeine, and they have 1 cup of coffee and then all of a sudden it doesn't wake them up and now they need 2 cups. The body is accommodating or attenuating. And same phenomena with drugs, and then the same phenomena with light. So what we found in practice is that if people went through a cycle where if they used, let's say, X39 during the day and then they removed it at night, they come back the next day and they still respond. But we do need to honor the natural way the body works. And so that means an on cycle and an off cycle.
Di has a follow-up question, which I thought was great. She said, what are the strategies we should use to avoid attenuation? For example, if we're having daytime protocols and nighttime protocols, she wants to know what's the best way to do that. Because some people want to wear, for example, X39 during the day and they want to wear silent nights at night. Is it okay to always have a patch on you as long as it's in a different location? Or should you have times where there's no patches on you?
I think what I'd say is what we found in practice is that there are daytime patches and evening patches, basically. There's some exceptions to that. But, you know, let's say as a general rule, if someone used X39 at night, or sorry, X39 during the day and silent nights at night, there is no issue with doing that daily. And you would not want to apply them to the same spot. And this is really for the practical purpose that you don't want to irritate the skin by stimulating the same point. So X39 behind the neck or below the belly button, silent nights on the side of the neck or the temple, and it's completely fine.
Barbara asks, does wearing the energy enhancer patches raise cortisol levels?
Not that we've seen. I'd have to think back to if we've done a study with energy patches elevating cortisol. We've done an Eon study where we measured that Eon balanced cortisol. For most people, it would be lowering cortisol, but I can't think that we've done that with the energy patches. But the mechanism of action is that energy patches are turning on beta oxidation. So it's turning on the process by which we convert fat over into energy. So this is not at all like a stimulant. That process doesn't put any type of stress on the cell. So, but we've never done a study to look at cortisol with energy patches.
I like that you said the word balance because I've noticed both in myself and also with my clients with adrenal fatigue that we're feeling more balanced now, and whether that's for some people that they needed more cortisol because they were exhausted or like they had exhausted their cortisol levels and it bring them back into a state of balance, or for others who are having too high cortisol levels, we noticed it bringing them back down because it's helping the nervous system and the body just regulate, just come back into that state of balance. So that's what I've personally felt and noticed with my clients. It would be cool to see future studies on that. Sarah says, ask him what type of case he puts his patches in. So like, for example, I have patches upstairs in our office so that I have easy access to them upstairs. I have some in our bedroom. I have a case of patches downstairs, all the patches. I keep every single one in the house, upstairs and downstairs, and in my purse. But in my purse, I put them in a Faraday bag so I can travel with them and not like accidentally activate them if the purse is close to me. So when you travel with your patches, how do you travel with them?
Yeah, so I always travel with my patches. I think I would panic if I didn't have them with me. Uh, yeah, I always take them. I never put them in a checked bag. I always take them as with carry-on, and then I have kind of like a separate sleeve in my travel case that they go into. But they just stay in their sleeves that we ship them in. I haven't found that it's really been necessary to put them in anything, lined with nickel or copper or anything like that. Um, yeah, so I don't do really anything extraordinary with them other than, just keep them in my travel bag. I never put them in anything where they're going to be up against my body.
Right. And that's why because my purse is right up against my body, that's why I put them in a Faraday bag just to be on the safe side. But so far it's worked. It doesn't, use up the patches to have them be that close to me when it's in the Faraday bag. Lisa, who is one of my dear team members and an amazing holistic practitioner, she says, my husband's an overhead power lineman. Would wearing patches act as a conductor, or is he safe to use them while working? Also, I had read somewhere that X49 can act as a Faraday cage for 4G and 5G. Could wearing them near high voltage power lines help him at all?
Well, that's interesting. Now, I would have to speculate, but what we've seen is that X39 improves the electrical potential of the cell. And when we're talking about things like high voltage, EMFs, essentially what those things are going to do is create oxidative stress on the cell. So anything that we can do to improve the electrical integrity of the cell is going to help us resist things like 5G and electrical power lines. Jerry Tennant has done quite a bit of research into this, and he's certainly an authority on the subject. So, but yes, I would say the other side to this is I'd recommend people supplement with copper.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Copper, of course, is what's used to create a Faraday cage, and supplementing with copper orally, we know that there's a high concentration of copper in the skin. So oral supplementation of copper, and then of course elevating copper binding peptides, certainly you would say has the potential to reduce the impact of things like 5G, wireless, power lines on the human body. It's all relative to the level of exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say with this specific case, but if it were me, I would definitely be supplementing with extra copper.
Love it. And I learned a long time ago that copper should be in a 50-1 ratio with selenium being the 50 and the copper being 1,
Mm.
that they really work well together. And I also saw that those two nutrients are part of your upcoming supplements being launched, which I'm really excited about. Di asks, I've never seen or heard this be said, but she has. She says, why is it sometimes that Elevita patch is the second most powerful?
Alavita, what that was designed for was the design philosophy behind that. It was I was looking for a way to elevate epithalamine, and epithalamine was discovered by Vladimir Kavinsky, a Russian scientist, and he has been specializing in extracting peptides, naturally occurring peptides from the human body that have anti-aging effects, along with some other things, but principally anti-aging. And epithalamine is found in the pineal gland, and he certainly found that it'll do a few things that I probably shouldn't talk about here. But but what we found with the Alavita patch, looking in that direction, is that we could reduce oxidative and inflammatory stress. And the idea became, well, if we can protect the collagen matrix in the body from damage, we could improve the health of the skin from the inside out. And that way we could put together a system where you apply nutrients for the health of the skin, and then the patch benefits the skin from the inside out. So that's how Alavita came about.
I love it. Again, my husband's favorite patch. And every night when we're going to bed, we turn off the light and he goes, "Do you want an Alavita?" And then he, like in the dark, he reaches over and places it on my forehead. And it's so sweet the way my husband takes care of me. It's this little ritual that we've gotten into in the last year. And, he never forgets to reach over and put an Alavita on my forehead. It's so sweet.
That's awesome.
I know, I love it. Now, Di also asks, how can patches be used to support libido? I just want to give a little testimonial that your herbal spray, which is phenomenal, smells amazing, that it delivers medicinal herbs into the body, and that you have information about how it does in men raise testosterone. And I want to let you know, thanks to you, my husband, after 3 days, just 3 days it took to spray this. You just spray it on your wrists and rub it and then smell it, and it's absorbed into the body. 3 days of using the herbal spray, once in the morning, once at night. He was chasing me, literally chasing me around the house. So talk about increased testosterone in men, increased libido. That would be my answer to Di's question. But if you could step in, what patch would you say supports libido?
Yeah, well, we don't have a patch specifically for libido. And, this is getting into some claims that where we could talk about that for herbs, but not necessarily for light therapy or even for essential oils because of the FDA. But certainly, the good news here is that there are a number of naturally occurring nutrients. There's a number of herbs that for men that are getting older, they're experiencing lower sex drive, lower performance. There's any number of things that they can do to elevate nitric oxide, elevate testosterone naturally, and not have to resort to drugs. So Tongkat Ali is certainly one herb that has been studied quite extensively and been shown to elevate luteinizing hormone, which is going to turn on testosterone. And then with nitric oxide, of course, you have amino acids like citrulline, which have been shown to be very, very effective at increasing nitric oxide. That subject, of course, is very, 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 very broad. And there's a number of very interesting ways for men to improve sexual performance naturally. But we'd maybe leave that for another time.
And you do have an herbal spray that if a listener was interested in trying that on their husband or themselves, I happen to like it. I feel just calmer and happier. I'm already a calm, happy person. But I definitely noticed a shift from using the herbal spray. So I thought that was cool. But then what was really cool is my husband literally chasing me around the house. Sometimes I have to hide the spray from him because it's a little much. But how sweet is it that, he kind of feels like he's 18 again. And then I feel like I'm 18 being chased by an 18-year-old. The SP6 patch, which is I've just seen in so many ways help people come back into balance with their hormones. It's been pretty amazing. So that would be my answer to her question. And finally, we have Kellyanne, a wonderful nurse and a holistic practitioner up in Canada, and she can't wait for all the patches to be available in Canada. I'm sure she's she's going when, but in the meantime, she's using the patches that are available in Canada with all her clients and getting amazing results both on herself and her husband and all her clients. And she says, what lifestyle habits accelerate the benefits of using the phototherapy patches? What's the best way to use the patches for maximum results?
Yeah, well, first I'd say from a lifestyle perspective, diet is going to be so critically important. You just can't get around it. Maybe 70%, 80% of a person's results are going to be based around what is their nutrition like? Are they eating junk? Are they eating healthy food? Are they supplementing where they need to? That's always going to be critically important. I also just recently did a podcast or a webinar rather on the importance of sleep. And sleep deprivation leads to any number of different health disorders. So this always comes back to the foundation. If people are eating healthy, getting proper rest, exercising regularly, drinking enough water, staying away from the things that we know aren't any good, that foundation is going to serve that individual for their entire life. Then, when you have new technology like the patches, the benefits are going to be so much better as opposed to when someone is not eating healthy and not exercising. So, I would say to anyone, if you want to use the patches, that you really want to make sure that your foundation is there. You don't have to be perfect, but you want to make sure that your diet is in place, you're supplementing where you need to, you're exercising regularly, you're getting proper rest, you're drinking enough water. If you're doing those things, you can expect that your results with the patches are going to be great.
This is a point I'd like to add to what you're saying, not contradict what you're saying, because I absolutely agree with you. And I've had clients who put the patches on their husbands who just like eat takeout and drink beer and they don't do anything for their health. And so I didn't know what kind of results we would get, but it's like, it's worth it. Just give it a try. I still have seen people who don't live necessarily a healthy lifestyle still get pretty good results from wearing the phototherapy patches, which just goes to show that even if someone isn't fully nutrified and living a healthy lifestyle, they do get results. I have had several clients who didn't have the mindset or like the capacity, like emotional capacity, the mental capacity, the energy to, cook healthy food, to exercise, to do the healthy things because they were in absolute overwhelm. And so I had them wear the patches for a month, and through that month, their capacity to do things for themselves grew because they became calmer and they became more grounded and they got more energy and their inflammation came down. So I use the patches for people who they want to be healthier, but they just don't have the capacity to do the things to get healthier. The patches have been such a powerful tool to help my clients get to that level where now they have the energy to cook healthy food and now they have the energy to go to the gym. And I've seen it on so many people. So regardless of where you are, whether you're just starting out today or whether you've been a health nut for a long time, regardless of where you are, it's worth trying the patches. And then as you progress, you can continue to work on healthier and healthier ways of eating and moving your body in a way that brings you joy and increasing your depth of sleep. I love that the Silent Nights patch is just proven on so many levels to be phenomenal for people for sleep. And I'm so grateful for what you do. Kellyanne has this beautiful question that it just really sums up our wonderful interview. And she says, what is your global vision for LifeWave's future? What impact are you creating in the world?
The vision for the company it's on a number of different levels. The first thing is we want to bring awareness that people have many natural options for improving their health and their quality of life. And that's really critically important because many people today are indoctrinated with the idea that they have to use drugs and that's the only way that they're going to improve their health. And we're seeing now the backlash from people that are using Ozempic as a way to lose weight. And of
Mm,
course, the side effects from the vaccine. My daughter has a friend, and she's in her 20s. And this young lady listened to her doctor, got Ozempic, and it blew out her gallbladder, and she had to remove her gallbladder. And now the quality of her life is severely degraded now for the rest of her life. And when she could have used natural methods, but she let her doctor convince her that Ozempic was safe
mm.
when it clearly is not. So we want to help to bring awareness that there are natural solutions for improving quality of life, improving health. That I would say would be incredibly important. The other thing that we want to do is provide people with new technology to empower them so that when they face challenges in their life, it could be something as simple as not having enough energy, not getting a good night's sleep, or something more serious, that they have tools at their disposal to support them in their healing journey. And they don't have to panic, and they don't have to feel powerless. That's an incredibly important part of what we're doing because unfortunately, the medical community has seemed to thrive in an environment of fear and getting people to respond that way. And that would be the complete opposite of how we want people to live. In our community, we want to bring hope, we want to bring light, we want to bring solutions, and we want to put power into where it should be, into the hands of the individual. So those are very, very important goals for our business.
I love it. I'm so thrilled to be part of this and to see LifeWave. I'm in it for life. I got to tell you, after we used the patches, this is, over a year ago, we used the patches in a first aid experience and got such a fast result. I just started saying to everyone, I will never be without these. Knock on wood. I will never be without these. They will always be in my medicine cabinet. I'll take breaks. I'll go to bed and not have a patch on unless my husband, throws it on. I'll leave it on my forehead. And I wear them every week. Definitely taking breaks, like you said, not wearing them for 24 hours every day, but I will take breaks, but I will always, 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 always have them in my medicine cabinet. And I want them to be in everyone's purse or suitcase or medicine cabinet. When you can reach for something that works so quickly, I'll give one example, head cold. In the last year and a half, I've had 3 head colds. It doesn't sound like much, but when your whole life is talking, you don't want head colds, and especially trying to go to sleep with a head cold. It's your sinuses get stuffed up. I take a pair of ice waves, put them on my sinuses, and in the height of a head cold, my sinuses will never be stuffy. I'm able to breathe through my nose. And I did this on one of my friends who we were at the playground. We homeschooled and our children were playing together and my friend sounded really stuffy. And I said, "Oh, do you have a head cold?" She goes, Yeah, I'm super stuffy. Both my sinuses, I just can't drain them. I said, "Here, put these on." Because I always carry my patches with me. Put these on your sinuses. And 2 minutes later, like I'm talking to another friend and she's carrying her baby. And she just yelps. She goes, "Oh my gosh, I can breathe through my nose. This works." And I looked at her. I'm like, "Yeah, of course it works." And she goes, I didn't expect it. I thought maybe in 20 minutes I might have like some relief or something. I didn't expect it to be this fast. I didn't expect it to actually work." And for my son also, anytime he gets a stuffy nose, immediately put on the ice waves and it just drains it. How cool is that? And if we get a sore throat, we immediately put a glutathione on. It like blows it out of our system. It's so cool to have that available in the medicine cabinet and not need to reach for drugs. Of course, I don't I don't normally reach for drugs. I normally reach for like essential oils and homeopathy. And this is more powerful, my most powerful tool than any other therapy. And I have those therapies too. I have all those kinds of medicines at my disposal. But your technology is single-handedly my most powerful tool that I use on a daily basis and with my clients. And so thank you, David, for everything you do. And I would be honored if you'd come back on the show at some point because there's just so much more to unpack and explore with you.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you having me. And yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been great. Is there anything, I know you said so much, but I just want to make sure, is there anything else you'd like to say to wrap up today's interview?
Oh, I think what I would say, well, first, thank you very much for having me on. And I think what I'd say is that, we're all going to go through situations in life which are going to be challenging and difficult, but there's always hope. Pray, turn to God, look for direction, look for the greater good. And there's always people in our community that just want to help, and there are answers. And I think that's something that's incredibly important.
I love it. Thank you so much, David. It's been such a pleasure. I cannot wait to have you back on the show.
Thanks, Ashley. Appreciate it.
Wasn't that an amazing interview with David Schmidt? I am so excited that you got to hear the entire interview and hear all the answers to the questions from the wonderful practitioners that I work with. If you have any more questions, I'd love to help you get the answers to them. I can talk to you myself. You can email me, ashley@learntruehealth.com. You can sign up for a free chat. Just get on the phone with me. I promise I don't bite. I know some listeners were like, this is so weird. I listen to you all the time and I feel like I know you, but you don't know me. And I'm like, I get it. I did the same thing 8 years ago. I was listening almost all the time to this one podcast, and then I reached out and had a conversation with him on the phone. I'm like, this is really weird because you're like in my car with me all the time, and I feel like we're best friends, but you don't know who I am. So this is like weird. So I really appreciate that. So if you jump on the phone with me, I promise I understand. It's a little odd when you know more about someone and they know nothing about you. But I promise I will make it not awkward to talk to me on the phone. I do it all the time. I help people all the time, help my clients have phone appointments from around the world. And so book a free session. Let's talk about your health. Let's talk about your goals and see how I can help you. I can point you towards the right resources, whether it be phototherapy or other resources that I have. I'd love to help you. Go to learntruehealth.com. In the menu, click on Work with Ashley James. And then the very first option at the top is sign up for a free phototherapy discovery session. If you're too shy to talk on the phone, please feel free to email me, as I would love to help you either way. If you do have experience with the phototherapy patches, or when you do, come join the Learn True Health Facebook group. Share with the other listeners what your experience is like. One of the testimonials about the phototherapy patches was actually in episode 500. I have one of my clients had 100% of her symptoms go away after starting to use the patches, and she shared that in episode 500. But I have dozens and dozens of really amazing testimonials. In fact, I have one I want to share with you right now. I just recently came across this testimonial in our group, and it really blew me away. And there are just thousands of really cool testimonials. This one, though, blew me away because it has to do with liver disease. This woman shares that she has had liver disease for many years, that it runs in her family. She has several family members who have succumbed to this disease. It's NAFLD, liver disease. I had never heard of it. And she was in touch with a surgeon who specializes in this liver disease, and was recommending that she get a liver transplant, as some of her family members have had to get liver transplants. All her scans and blood work showed that her liver was at its end, and the next step was transplant or death. So she was sent home to go buy a plot of land for her burial to get her will in order. And she started using these phototherapy patches. She was incredibly skeptical, and actually, she kind of jokes about how she wanted to use them to prove that they didn't work. And then she used them for a while, and what she saw was pain, insomnia got better, several health issues got better. She couldn't believe it, but she wasn't necessarily expecting her liver to make a full recovery or anything like that. And she went back to the doctor who was helping her, got her on the transplant list and was helping to get her to the point where she could hopefully receive a liver transplant. That was their goal. She goes in for another scan that they do every 1 or 2 years and blood work. And the doctor couldn't believe it. The doctor thinks the scan's wrong, even though the blood work backs up the scan. He is in complete denial. Her liver is fully functional within a year of since using the phototherapy patches. She's beside herself, but her blood work is normal, her scans are normal, her liver is functioning normally now. And she's just so happy she invested the time. It took a year to use them and just to see what would happen, which is so incredible. And of course, doctors who don't believe in natural medicine or believe the body can heal itself, they're not going to even see it. Even when we show them proof, they're not going to see it. So, I'm not saying that we can cure or treat anything. The body does the healing. The body heals itself. And if there's anything we can do to support the body's ability to heal itself, we should do it. We should also get out of our own way, right? So there are times when we're putting things in our body that are harming us. We're having health habits like going to bed late or drinking too much alcohol or coffee or sugar or stressing, arguing. These little daily activities or lack of activity, they lead to a diseased body, right? And the body is constantly trying to heal itself, constantly trying to come back into homeostasis. So that whatever we can do in our diet and lifestyle and supplements and alternative medicine, whatever we can do to just support the body to do its job, which is to heal itself, then we should. And that's what I love about this is that our body is constantly wanting to get back into that homeostasis, and this is something that pushes it there faster, which is so beautiful, right? Because that's all we want. We want that quality of life. We want a longer, healthier life. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a listener. This has been wonderful sharing this with you, and I can't wait to hear from you. I hope you reach out and book a free discovery session with me by going to learntourhealth.com and clicking the menu and selecting Work with Ashley James, or reaching out to me, emailing me, ashley@learntourhealth.com. I can't wait to hear from you. Also, join my Facebook group, the Learn True Health Facebook group, which is different from the patching group. Join us and ask questions, start discussions about this episode or other episodes. We'd love to hear from you. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your day.